Hey everybody, I'm Dwayne Burkhardt, and this is not the Rugby Report. This is a Rugby Short. Welcome everyone. There is a lot of rugby news this week, but our first story has to be at sold-out Eden Park for the Women's Rugby World Cup Championship game between two heavyweight rugby nations. The New Zealand Black Ferns hosted the England Red Roses in what was easily the biggest, the most important, and definitely one of the most exciting women's rugby games ever played. It was an epic battle. In the opening minutes, England jumped out to a 14-0 lead before the Black Ferns finally got going, but it was still England's game at the half, and the Roses led 26-19. But in the second half, the Black Ferns spread the field, they got loose, and they went on a two-try run of their own to take their first lead of the game. But then, back came the Red Roses. Amy Cokayne was a beast in this game, scoring 3 tries for England, including one that would give them back the lead. And then, in the 70th minute, a ridiculous pass gave the lead back to the Black Ferns. And then, well, it was just 10 minutes of simply mind-bogglingly good rugby to watch. As the clock ran up to full time, England pounded their way down the field and got all the way to within 5 meters of another score and their third world championship. But it just wasn't to be. The Black Ferns stole the line and throw, got a penalty, and the New Zealand Black Ferns are world champions. Congratulations, ladies. Well done. Next up, we switch hemispheres and travel all the way to Europe to check in on the Autumn Nations Tour, and there was definitely some news there. Well, let's see. Ireland beat Fiji 35-17. England beat Japan 52-13. Wales came back after an embarrassing loss to the All Blacks last week and beat the Argentina Pumas 20-13. And New Zealand, after finally bringing several key players in off the bench, avoided a scare in Scotland by downing the bagpipe blowers 31-23. Well, there's nothing really earth-shattering in any of that, right? Well, hold on to your Gilbert balls, folks, because there were 2 other games this weekend that you need to know about. First, in what can only be described as the shocker of the tournament so far, if not the shocker of the year, Italy took down Australia for the first time ever. Now, it was, in fairness to the Wallabies, yet another close game for them. In fact, their last 3 games have now been decided by just 1 point each. But here's the thing. This game wasn't expected to be close. At all. Which means the Wallabies have some work to do. And finally, in Europe, if you have time for only 1 game to watch this weekend, folks, it really needs to be France versus South Africa, because this game was far away the best rugby game in the tournament so far. This game was as exciting and interesting as international test rugby gets. This game had it all, including 2 unbelievably boneheaded moves by superstar players, one on each team, that resulted in red cards. Now, in fairness to Detroit for South Africa and Tupal for France, both men knew that they'd done something remarkably stupid. They didn't argue, they expressed concern for the other player, they left the field quietly. South Africa's kicking game, which was absolutely awful in Ireland last week, was much improved, and it needed to be. The game had so many lead changes, I lost count. But in the end, the French simply had more in their tank, and they won it 30-26. For France, it was their first win against the Springboks since 2009, and for South Africa, while they played far better in this loss, they clearly still have a lot of work to do. Next up, we move over to the USA, where my original hometown of Chicago, Illinois, has been awarded the next franchise in the USA's Major League Rugby. The team will start play in 2023, and since the team isn't named yet, as someone who was born and raised there, I'd like to throw out some ideas for the naming committee. If you're looking for accuracy, may I suggest the Chicago Freeze Your Butts Off? Or perhaps just the Chicago Lake Effect? Another one that came immediately to mind was the Chicago Pizza, or the Chicago deep dish. Admittedly, that one's a bit obvious, but it's also filled with potential marketing tie-ins. And toppings. Finally, a more fun name might be the Chicago Untouchables, particularly if we can get Kevin Costner to join the owners group. Seriously, I couldn't be more excited for the city of my birth, and I am very excited to see Major League Rugby come to Chicago. Finally, in Super Rugby news, there was a flood of signings and trades this week as rosters for the 2023 season are firming up. There were two big trades. The first sent Jonah Lowe from the Chiefs to the Highlanders in exchange for Ngutungani Punavai and Manakai Selby-Rickett, and the second trade, which I think might work out very well for both players, sent Waiseki Naholo's younger brother Kini Naholo, and note that I didn't say he was Waiseki's little brother, because if there's one thing he's not, it's little. Anyway, Kini moves over from the Crusaders to the Hurricanes in exchange for Pepisana Patafilo. Finally, my vote for the number one signing of the week goes to the Highlanders for signing Otago rookie sensation Cameron Miller. Now, I honestly don't know if Miller is ready for the big leagues yet or not, but he absolutely earned a shot at it, and I, for one, will be watching him very closely next year. And that's it, folks. That's why we call them rugby shorts. Until we meet again, remember, it's okay to date a rugby fan, but I don't recommend dating a tennis fan. Love means nothing to them. See you next time. And since the team isn't yet named, as someone who was born and raised there, I'm going to do that again. Yeah. Trades as the week. Rats. There were two big trades. The first sent Jonah Lowe from the Chiefs to the Highlanders in exchange for Ngutungani. I'm going to get it right. And the second trade, which I think might work out very well. You got to be kidding me. I got the name right and I couldn't. Wow. Until we, I think I like that.